This one coming out of Disneyland Paris. Walt Disney World News today. Disneyland Paris to permanently retire horses on Main Street later this year. Shannon Ace, July 2nd, 2026. By the end of 2026, the horse-drawn streetcars on Main Street, USA will permanently close as the horses retire. This follows the retirement of the horses who appeared in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, which closed permanently in 2020. Similar to other Disney parks, the horse-drawn streetcars have been a staple at Disneyland Paris since its 1992 opening. And there are 3 streetcars pulled by Percherons who live on site at the Pony Farm. The large backstage area in Frontierland, where the horses as well as goats live, can be bulldozed for future park expansion. Now, I kind of doubt that claim there.
Yeah, a lot of other people doubt it too.
Right. The Mountain King, actually, who takes a particular interest in everything Disneyland Paris, had this to say about what is actually going on right here. Now, I know it's in French, so I'm going to go ahead and translate for you off screen. The removal of the Main Street horses is simply a budget cut. All Disneyland Park extensions have been designed to preserve what exists, not to reduce the offerings. And you can kind of see right here blueprints of the park and where expansions had been previously considered right there. So the Pony Farm and where it actually exists is very interesting. It's around the border of Frontierland, which actually coincides with roughly where it existed at Disneyland for a period of time right there. You'll remember the Pope House and all of that, Vixen, perhaps when doing research into this subject right here. A staple of Disneyland, obviously starting up there at that park in 1954 to get ready for its 55 opening. And one of the reasons why I doubt this claim is because Disney moved heaven and earth. I talk about the story all the time. The Circle D Ranch that used to exist on that northern edge of Frontierland. Things had encroached onto it for years, and obviously the scale changes because, when Disneyland first starts out, right, it's all pack mules and mule rides and all kinds of horse-drawn stuff right there. But obviously, that is crept in. The goats that used to exist back there in the Big Thunder Ranch and all of that, obviously that shrinks. And certainly, Big Thunder Ranch goes away permanently for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge construction that's starting around 2016, 2017 right there. And so it became, let's go ahead and get rid of Circle D Ranch as well, in order to facilitate the construction of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And it was very interesting, Vixen. There was a 2-year process actually conducted to find an alternative location for the ranch, and they actually settled on Norco, California, which is a very, very interesting place to set your ranch in there because, obviously, Vixen, you've got to truck in now these horses every single day for Main Street, and it's about a 45-minute transportation cycle each way. So it's a considerable expense, considerable amount of time. And Vixen, if I'm not mistaken, the Parisian horses have a similar onboarding process, right, in terms of both care, but also to setting up for park life, right? I do believe sensorily they have to get used to this environment. Please go ahead, Vixen.
They do. And Norco is a perfect place to put the Disneyland horses because Norco, the whole city, I have a friend who lives there. It's very equestrian orientated. And so they have a lot of horses that live in Norco. So I'm sure the Disneyland horses love to live in Norco. But that's true about the French horses. Definitely. But what's weird, kind of strange when I was deep diving into this, is I kept coming across that they're saying that they have a 2026 new animal welfare initiative, and that was part of the reasons why they were retiring the horses. Did you come across that at all?
I have not yet, but that is a very interesting discussion right there. You obviously, having a ranch and having livestock may be a little bit different in France than it would be in the United States. Very interesting, I will say.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I also saw they have a Disneyland hotel called Cheyenne at Paris. And you can have pony rides there if you're a child 3 to 11. And of course, they charge for those rides. From what I could gather, they charge about €12 per ride. to ride those. Now, they're not going to get rid of those pony rides. They're seasonal. And they're also not retiring the horse-drawn Disney fairy tale carriage that you can have when you book a Disney fairy tale wedding at
yes.
Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, well, we got to keep those horses employed. They actually make us money.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah, we gotta.
They're working for a living.
In perspective, right there. I want to go ahead and go backwards a little bit on this B-roll right here because as it's taking off from its place on Town Square, you can see right there. The tracks actually go into what is essentially the firehouse, or the firehouse equivalent out there in Disneyland Paris. I know Eddie Sato spent a considerable amount of time on every single detail when it came to Disneyland Paris. He wanted this to be the absolute deluxe version of what can be found in other parks around the world. And he was like, okay, the firehouse ride doesn't necessarily serve that much of a purpose now at Disneyland. I think at Walt Disney World, it used to be the distribution center for the park game with the cards and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like, okay, well, let's go ahead and actually have this serve a function, and that was to let in the trolley every single day, because even at Disneyland, there really isn't an official building in which that takes place. It just kind of goes backstage, but he wanted everything to serve a purpose right there. And I love the history of the trolley itself, actually, out there in Disneyland Paris, because, well, I don't know if you saw this in your research there, Vixen, but the trolley itself was designed to be modeled after Hello Dolly.
It was, yes. Eddie was very influenced by that. And I thought that was wonderful. He's one of my favorite Imagineers. So.
Oh, yes. He was my favorite for many, many years. Absolutely phenomenal. Just one of the best of the second gen right there. And obviously people, chiming in, not necessarily excited about the prospect of this. Glad that Eddie Sato isn't here to see this. Yes. This by Jim Shaw, obviously ex-Imagineer himself. The removal of the Main Street horses, the Gingerbread House and Grand Floridian, and the Walt Disney World transportation options are budget cuts intended to improve Disney profits. And these removals are brand withdrawals. I do agree with this, Vixen. It's just it's hard to see this happen to
hard.
Some of our favorite places, right?
It's very hard.
In this need to be as efficient as possible, we do lose some great stuff. And Thomas Moslem is living up to his name right there. And by the way, Vixen, Josh D'Amaro, he's there. I thought he was the grand savior, but we seem to be losing things more than gaining them nowadays.
No, I came across on X a lot of people who worried about the horses. And I just want to let everyone know that these horses just work from 9:30 a.m. to midday. And they're bred to do this heavy work like this. Actually, in the Middle Ages, it said that these horses actually carried knights with armor into battle. So they're pictured in many oil paintings from the from that time. And so they're able to do this heavy work.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Not only are they bred to do this work, but they're also, trained specifically in order to do this. There's a long onboarding process for any horse.
Yes.
On property right there. And obviously, I think there was a viral video out there some years ago, I think 2020, 2021, thereabouts. You can tell because everybody's wearing masks and there are no people on Main Street, which is very odd. But there's a cavalcade going across there with the gal from Brave, the movie, and her horse that she's on, I think like a balloon wrapped around its leg or something like that.
Yes.
It was kind of a risky situation right there. But, those are the things that might happen in a theme park setting. And so it's a very carefully orchestrated thing. In fact, in my research, actually, the horses, when they were actually spending their time in Circle D Ranch just behind Disneyland at their former location, the fireworks go off on a nightly basis, and they wouldn't react to it at all. It was such a regular occurrence for them.
Yes, they have a very tame temperament, so they're perfect for the theme parks. And I'm sure that Walt probably realized that too.
I'm sure he did, and I'm sure he wanted his horses to be deluxe in that way. Mountain King offering a little bit more on Eddie's behalf right here. Wow. What Disneyland Paris is doing to the best Main Street USA in the world after Eddie Sato's passing is simply disrespectful. Removing theming, AI, billboards, no more horses, rotten props, the new Casey Terrace that Eddie disliked publicly because of the bad proportions. There's so many things that I certainly don't like them doing. He had a back and forth with 5L5 on X, and she was like, "Oh, look at these, amazing details on the inside of these trolley cars. That's just how Eddie worked. Just
Mm-hmm.
no detail too small. And she was remarking about that and posted pictures. And Eddie, first thing she's like, "Hey, thanks for noticing," kind of thing. I mean, he was really
Yeah.
proud of
He
what he
was a
actually accomplished.
detail-orientated guy, wasn't he? Very
Oh,
much into the
absolutely.
detail. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a great story of Eddie. He was working on Main Street. He was working on that just the perfect amount of molding and everything like that, and the perfect amount of interior decor and the details associated with it. And he like freaked out very, very close to opening. He's like, this is not coming together the way I want. We don't have necessarily the molding that I want. We don't necessarily have the Victorian details that I wanted to go ahead and imbue in this land. He was really kind of like, ugh, like I'm kind of freaking out right there. And Frank Wells, heard this, and obviously he Eddie opened up to Frank in that way. Frank's like, hey, don't worry about it. What do you need? What can we do? How can we go above and beyond with this grand, amazing theme park that we're so proud in opening? And it was just a testament to the two of them, how they worked, and the amount of emphasis they placed. Eddie, obviously, placing emphasis on the place, but Frank Wells definitely, all about the person. And it's so sad now that both those men are passed. That we're at this point where we're destroying stuff, fixing. I don't like this.
It's not good. It's not good. But they had a retirement of animals from Disneyland Paris before in 2020. They moved Buffalo Bill's Wild West show out of there, and I believe they had a bunch of bison that they put out on a ranch, and horses and other animals that were in that show. But it's very sad for me because I've waited such a long time to go see Disneyland Paris. And one of my dreams was to ride the streetcar, horse-drawn trolley down the main street to see the castle. And I realize I've waited too long, that it'll never be a dream that I can realize.
It's just tough that, man, I just, for me, I didn't get down there fast enough to see how the original incarnation of the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea exhibit was maintained there. If anybody's been a fan of Vash and Vixen in the past, and anybody's seen our prior shows, we did a whole steampunk episode going into all of that, and you'll note that the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea exhibit at Disneyland Paris, that was modified in order to make it more, I don't know, a marine exploration type theme. Truly bizarre decision. I don't quite like that at all. But yeah, it's just, the benefit of not actually having expansion in your park, which I do believe in terms of meaningful additions, expansions, all of that, I don't think that's occurred at Disneyland Paris since 1985, if I'm not mistaken. It is the longest park that has not benefited from a meaningful expansion, right? Or a meaningful big new attraction that has been installed. One of the benefits of that happening is that you don't necessarily lose anything that was originally intended by those Imagineers back in 1992. Now, obviously, we might be on the precipice of that changing. I do kind of agree with Mountain King, though. I'm not sure we are on the precipice of expansion for Disneyland Paris Park. I think Disney Adventure World needs a little bit more before we start looking at this park, but c'est la vie. I mean, they're making hasty decisions anyway.
Exactly. And people on X were saying, well, the horses are being treated badly because they have to do the, walk down Main Street in hot heat and snow and rain. But these horses are bred to be out on ranches. And also they also were with stagecoaches and carried the people in the stagecoaches. So they're able to carry that many people, and they're on tracks. So it's not as hard to pull. Well cared for. They're well cared for.
That's a fantastic point, and I just want to highlight, I mean, at least when it comes to the Californian version of the ranch out there, I mean, Disney has been world renowned for how well they treat their animals, care for their animals right there. Obviously, you can see the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Circle D Ranch in the Norco area right there. It's just this allegation that they don't actually treat their horses well. I think anybody can attest to. Try Circle D Ranch over there at Walt Disney World if you've ever visited out there around Fort Wilderness. They take great care of their horses. I don't imagine anything differently taking place in Disneyland Paris, so I think that it's just nonsense in terms of my view.
It's an emotional subject, sort of like the pirate, Pirates of the Caribbean, right? People are
It is.
emotional because when you lose something, you're not able to really say goodbye to it. But this is leaving. The horses are leaving at the end of the year. That's what they're saying. So if you have a chance to go to Disneyland Paris before then, you'll get to see them.
You've got a chance to go there
Mhm.
before
You do.
the time runs out right there. I think in late 2026 right there. We'll be keeping an eye on all of this, keeping an eye on all things Disneyland Paris operationally and thereabouts. Certainly want to monitor the situation because it is really interesting.